Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of How to Talisman. As with the rest of the videos in this series, if you're an experienced Talisman player, there's other content on the channel that you might enjoy more than this. But since this video focuses on the end game, it'll hopefully be entertaining and or interesting for everyone. The AI chooses the Minstrel, which we don't need to look at because we've already seen that card from the beginning of the game, so you know what's in store for them. They managed to gain a gold right off the bat. Good move, but I suspect it's not going to matter very much. Another 1 for the movement. That's kind of uncanny, but we'll go with it. Another sword. Sure, why not? Can never have too many swords. Not a bad move, honestly, going for the witch. Gaining a point of strength. Already managed to get as much strength with the minstrel as he had with the ghoul at its peak. Granted, he doesn't have nearly the craft that he lost with the ghoul, but still kind of funny. Now you'll notice that we have an option here available to us, which is basically that we can go inside this inner ring of the board. The other thing we need to think about, though, is the fact that on the square where the ghoul died, there is a talisman. And as I said before, we do need a talisman to be able to complete this game. One way we can get the talisman would be to go into the inner ring here and visit this warlock's cave, take a warlock quest, complete it, and then be rewarded with a talisman. But I'm starting to think, given our options, that it may be easier to simply go and fight that huge craft creature that's blocking the square where the ghoul died, take it out, obtain the talisman from there, and then make a run for the middle of the board. So I think that's actually what we're going to do here. Let's bounce over to the shrine, get something nice hopefully, but not too expensive. We gain a fate. I will take it. That'll give us 1 more fate than normal. I'm actually going to go here, thinking that I might roll big next time to get to the ruins. Strength of 2, no big deal. Auto kill that. That may be enough for a trophy. Now I think we're 1 short of turning in our trophies. I just want to stay close to the ruins. This isn't really going to help us very much unless we roll a 6. Nope. Looks like we're probably going to have to lose a turn off of that 3 roll. But at least we'll stay relatively close to what we're trying to get to. You can see the AI has kind of gotten into a little bit of a movement loop there. Alright, so I'm going to head up to the tavern and hope that I can roll a 5 there, which will allow me to teleport to any square in the region that I want to. And hopefully that'll expedite things a little bit. No. Let's actually try for the reroll, because right now we're going to lose a gold, and we do have an extra point of fate and get another shot at maybe getting the 5 that we wanted. Yeah, we gain a gold, lose a fate. Hopefully we'll roll a 2 next time for our movement. Yeah, the minstrel seems to be caught in a bit of a loop here, bouncing back and forth between these squares. Although we are not doing much better ourselves. We only have 2 gold, which isn't enough to visit the instructor. Let's head down here. Once again, try to roll a 6 if we can. No! We're attacked, but that guy's not going to be able to hurt us. We'll just auto-kill him. Be done with it. Still hoping for a 2 here to get onto that square. Now the minstrel obtains a follower. It's actually a pretty useful follower. And given these options, we're going to try to stay close to the square we're trying to hit, even though visiting the healer doesn't really do anything for us. Now we'll be hoping for a 4 for our next move. There, the minstrel's going to get to teleport wherever he wants to go, which is good for him, not so good for us. Maybe we can do some teleportation ourselves. Yep. Let's try this again. And again, we spend a point of fate to re-roll that, lose the fate, and get the gold. Now, the interesting thing about that is we actually do have enough gold to visit the instructor if we so desired, but hopefully we'll just roll a 2 and get what we want here. No such luck. Given these choices, I don't think I want to move over here because that's going to move us further away from what we're trying to get to. Let's just take the safe play at the shrine and hopefully get something good out of that. Hey, teleport to any space you want to. Awesome. That's exactly what we're going to do. So, we need to fight this guy. Now we do have a craft advantage over him, 11 versus 10, so we just need to beat him on the roll. And with that 6, that should do the trick, because even if he rolls a 6, we should still get him handily. Alright, so we take that guy out. We'll go ahead and take that follower, take that follower, take that follower, take this follower, take that talisman, take that, take that, take that, take that. Let's see if there's anything we want to drop here. Let's get rid of these swords. And we'll go ahead and pick up that evil weapon, just because we're evil. And why not? We could turn that trophy in, but I think that would be a little premature. If we can manage to pick up 4 craft, at some point we could get 2 points of craft from the turn-in on this. I think wasting 3 points just to turn this in now is kind of premature, so we'll hold on to that craft trophy for now. And now we're absolutely going to make our way to the middle and try to wrap this game up, because there's really nothing stopping us or standing in our way. By being able to go in and acquire everything that the ghoul lost when it died, that basically bumps us over the top to where we need to be. We're going to go ahead and start moving towards the Sentinel, which is the traditional way that you go through to the inner region. Let's go ahead and roll on the Mystic. Now we could turn good here, which shouldn't hurt us really. We have still 2 fate points, and we will have to drop that evil weapon that we just picked up, but we've got plenty of other weapons at our disposal at this point, so it's not really a great loss. So I think we're going to go ahead and do that. Let ourselves be turned good. And we can finish how we started alignment-wise. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the shrine, just because I don't want to have to worry about drawing a card here and having something sketchy come up. Let's go ahead and gain a spell. That sounds cool. Oh, awesome. So this spell is really useful. It basically allows you to take 3 consecutive turns without being interrupted. So we're definitely going to do that at the beginning of our next turn, and that'll help expedite things a little bit. Some gold for the minstrel. Let's go ahead and activate our spell. Looks like we can't actually activate it until we take our turn. Unfortunately, we have to worry about the graveyard a little bit now because we are good. But we have so many lives at this point that I honestly think we could probably just say forget about it and take the loss in life just to move us closer to where we want to be. Unfortunately, our spell queuing system does not appear to be working at the moment. Oh, actually, that's not a bug. I forgot that I'm holding that amulet, which prevents you from casting spells or having spells cast against you. My mistake. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and try to go into the inner region here. Now you'll notice this square is red, which means that to get to this square, we're going to have to fight this big sentinel guy on the way in. But that shouldn't be too big of a deal because our stats are pretty robust. But I'm going to go ahead and click that, and we're going to fight the sentinel. So we have 8 plus 4 for our stats. We're not quite tough enough to automatically win this fight, but we shouldn't have too much difficulty with it. Even with him rolling a 6, we still managed to squeak by with our 4 because of our superior stats. Now let's go ahead and draw some cards. Oh, there's a craft. Blizzard, that's going to slow down our movement, but no big deal. And then the market day, not really useful for us at this point, but the other character might appreciate it. There's really nothing here I'm interested in buying. Pass on that. Minstrel takes the opportunity to buy a cheap mule, not a bad choice. Although I'm not sure why you would buy that helmet, but c'est la vie. Let's go ahead and auto-kill this spirit. And then we're going to go ahead and get ready to take our next turn. Now, if I were being super impatient, I would probably drop the amulet that I'm carrying just so I could cast the spell that lets me take my turns consecutively. But I really, at this point, like the idea of having the amulet because it prevents the AI from throwing any spells that it might acquire at me that might potentially screw up my progression in the game. And because I have 2 gold here, I'm not going to worry about visiting the Black Knight. I can just pay him off with the gold that I have instead of losing a life. So we're just going to keep advancing towards the end game here. With the Blizzard card in effect, I can only move 1 square at a time in this region, which is why you're seeing the indicator the way that it is, and why I have to kind of creep along here instead of rolling. Normally I would be able to roll and go to any of these squares that were available as a result of my roll, but because the Blizzard is in effect, I have to move 1 square at a time for these next few turns. The Alchemist. Handy. Always good to have an extra follower. And I think at this point, I may just convert the craft that I have, because I am going to try to go into the Portal of Power next turn, and I want to have as much craft as possible when I go to make that roll. I didn't get to quite get 2 points worth of trophies, so I'm just going to use the one that I have. This will be a bit of a waste, but I don't want to drag this game out any longer than I have to. So we're just going to pump up our stat, get ourselves a nice 12 craft, which should be more than sufficient to win this game at this point. Especially considering that I'm already holding the gnome follower, which is going to make these rolls that I have to do that much easier. So let's go ahead and do our dice roll now that the blizzard has ended. And you can see here we have, from standing in this square, we have the option to enter into this square. Now how the Portal of Power works is that you have to roll using either your strength or your craft to actually gain access to this inner region of the board. Because I have such high statistics, and because I have the follower, which allows me to roll one less die when trying to bypass this portal, I actually can automatically open it and not even have to roll. So that's what I'm going to do in this particular case. But normally you would pick your best stat, whether it's strength or craft, and then roll dice against that stat to see if you're strong enough to enter the portal. The trick to that is, if you fail in that roll, you lose a point of whatever stat you tried to use to open the portal. So you want to make sure you have enough of a stat to actually attempt to do that properly, rather than risk losing that stat that you used to try to attempt it. Generally speaking, a minimum of 10 strength or craft is required to open the portal. If you want to play it safe, have 12. So let's check in with the minstrel. He's managed to get himself up to 3 strength and 7 craft. Fairly impressive considering that he just re-entered the game, but I think for our purposes here we've pretty much distanced ourselves from him to a point where he's not going to be a threat. At this point, you actually have to choose whether or not you want to take the strength path to the center of the board, which is this way, kind of counterclockwise, or if you want to take the craft path to the center of the board, which is the clockwise path around here. They have certain pros and cons. Generally, if you have higher strength, you're going to want to go counterclockwise. You're also going to want to have a fair amount of fate, because when you reach this square, you're going to need to roll some dice, and you might need to have fate points to re-roll to improve your chances of success. If you're going to take the craft path, you want to have as many followers as possible, because when you get to this square, you're going to need to potentially sacrifice some followers to keep yourself from losing lives. But because we have the gnome, which is going to increase our probability of success on the craft path, and because we have a lot of followers that we can sacrifice pretty easily, I'm going to take the craft path in this particular case. So let's go ahead and move to this square. Normally here we would have to roll 3 dice against our craft score, but because we have the gnome as a follower, we only have to roll 2. Because we have 12 craft, the 4 that we rolled here is well within the craft that we have, so there's no need to re-roll, and we get to stay on this square and progress towards the center. Alright, so now we move on to this square, which is kind of interesting in that we roll a die, and depending on what the dice roll is, that's how many followers we'll have to sacrifice to prevent ourselves from losing lives. Keep in mind, though, that we do have 5 lives, so even if we end up rolling pretty high here, we may end up not even having to sacrifice any followers and just being able to absorb that with lives. So you see we have 5, which means we'd have to sacrifice 3 followers to prevent ourselves from losing those 3 lives. What we're going to want to do here is select our 3 least useful followers to get rid of them. At this point, the alchemist really isn't doing us any good. We'll get rid of him. This guy isn't really particularly useful because we're not going to be doing a lot of fighting, and we certainly have enough strength to fight for ourselves. And then we actually have two of the guides, so we can definitely get rid of one of those. And I think that's gonna do it. If we get rid of these three, we shouldn't lose any lives. Alright. Now we've made it past the vampires, and we're in close proximity to being able to actually enter the center of the board. Keep in mind that the only reason we're going to be able to do this is because we acquired that Talisman card earlier from fighting that big craft 10 creature and recovering it from where the ghoul dropped it when it died. If we didn't already have this Talisman card, we would need to obtain one somehow to actually get to the center of the board and win the game. Next we go and fight the Pit Fiends. Again, here we roll dice to see how many Pit Fiends we're going to have to fight. And of course, because our luck has changed a bit, we're going to have to fight 6 of them. But because our stats are so good, we can actually auto-kill all of these. So we don't even have to roll to fight them. We can just keep auto-killing them. Because you see there, they only have a strength of 4, so even if they roll a 6 on their combat roll, the most strength they could have in this fight would be a 10, and we already exceed 10 just from our base stat without even rolling, which is why we get to auto-kill these. Minstrel likes visiting the healer. As I mentioned before, we're about to enter the Valley of Fire, which you can only do if you have a talisman. And because we do, we're in good shape, everything's good to go. Now, this is as good a time as any to talk about the house rules that we didn't enable at the beginning of this game. A few things to note. There is the Talisman Bloodbath rule, which insists that there is only one talisman in play in the game at any time. If that house rule had been in place, we definitely would have had to do what we did earlier on, where we went and obtained the talisman that the ghoul dropped when it died, because that would be the only talisman that could have actually been used to get to the center of the board. With that rule disengaged, we actually could have gone, as I said before, to the Warlock's Cave, obtained a Warlock quest, completed that quest, and received a talisman of our own without having to go and get that other one. There's also the No More Lives house rule, which is an important one because once we reach the center of the board here and start rolling the command spell to try to win the game, it would prevent the other players from obtaining extra lives to try to prolong the game. In this case, we're not playing with that house rule, so we're going to have to do a lot of dice rolling to actually end this game. But if you want to try to expedite the game and make it end faster, the No More Lives house rule is a good way to go. Finally, there's the Race to the Crown house rule, which we also did not implement. And if that rule were turned on, as soon as I stepped into the middle of the board here, I would automatically win the game, being the first player to reach the center. But because that house rule is not turned on, I'm actually going to have to roll dice on the command spell to try to eliminate the other player to win. So, having said all that, let's go ahead and start this process, which can actually be quite time consuming. He really loves going to that healer. Okay, so it looks like it's not actually going to let us roll the command spell while we're holding that amulet, so we're actually going to have to probably drop that. So let me go ahead and find it. Thought that the command spell was exempt from this amulet, but it doesn't seem like it's letting us do it. So we're going to drop that card and use the command spell. So now we need to roll between a 4 and a 6. Not good enough. Let's go ahead and re-roll that since we have a little bit of fate to play with. There's a 4. So that will take one of the enemy's lives away. And the objective here is to get him down to 0 lives and finish him off. Because we dropped the amulet, he is able to cast spells on us. And he's going to take our mule, it looks like. So we've got too many items at this point, but I'm not really concerned about that. We don't need the talisman anymore because we've made it to the center. We don't need the water bottle anymore because we're past the desert. So we're just going to drop those two. And keep the rest. Now, because we have dropped the amulet, we do have the ability to cast the spell that we have to take 3 turns in a row, and this is probably as good a time as any to do that. Hopefully this guy will lose this fight to the dragon and be on the bubble in terms of his lives. Excellent. His armor failed, the dragon munches on him, and you can see now that takes him down to 2 lives. Oh, apparently he had a spell, so that's going to prevent him from losing that life. Let me go ahead and cast this spell, which will allow me to take my 3 turns consecutively, and hopefully this will be enough to finish him off without dragging this out too long. Alright, we're not going to pick any of that stuff up because we don't need it. Probably just skip those encounters moving forward. There's a 6. That'll take one of his lives. Takes him down to 2. There's a 3, but we can re-roll it to a 5, which should take another life. Takes him down to 1 life, so if we can manage to get one more good roll here, we should be done. Another 3, but unfortunately we are out of fate at this point, so we can no longer re-roll. So we're going to have to hope that we can get him finished off before he's able to purchase any lives for himself. Or hope that he does something silly that gets him killed and does our work for us. No such luck in this case, but we do get to take another stab at him here. And there you have it. So with that, that's going to bring this game to an end, unless he's got some kind of trick up his sleeve that's going to prevent him from losing this last life. And there you have it. That is how you Talisman. Obviously, there's a bunch of different rules to this game, a bunch of different expansion packs, a bunch of different characters you can play as, a bunch of different house rules you can fiddle with. I'm sure you got a little taste there at the end of just how important some of those house rules can be for expediting the end of the game. As I'm sure you can imagine, there are many situations where the game can really drag on using the standard ending if you don't employ those house rules. I got a little lucky there in the sense that I had the ability to take those 3 consecutive turns and had some fate to work with to re-roll some of those poor dice rolls. All in all, this was actually a pretty quick game as games of Talisman go. So go into it understanding that it's a fairly long commitment to play through a game of this with friends or even by yourself. Obviously, the more players you have in the game, the longer the game is going to take, but also keep in mind that you can employ house rules such as the sudden death rule to guarantee that the game will take less time. So when you finish a game, you'll actually be presented with this summary, which indicates all the various things that happen throughout the game process and gives you your experience points for all the things that you accomplished. One good thing about the experience is that if you have not purchased the season pass for the game or the Runestone unlock pack, each time you level up your character, you will gain access to additional runestones, which you may want to use under certain circumstances, although I'm personally not a huge fan of them. And that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Hopefully you folks have enjoyed it. If you would like to see more videos concerning various aspects of Talisman in the future from me, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you would like to see more videos from me in general, be sure to hit subscribe. If you just enjoyed this video and hearing the sound of my voice for this long, be sure to hit like. And I will see you next time.